Whenever we think of alien invasion, our minds often go to terrifying tripods, laser guns, and big explosions. But what if I told you that's not the only invasion we'd have to worry about? Project Hail Mary, written by Andy Weir and recently adapted the film, shows us an equally scary invasion. One where there is no great evil intelligence looking to vaporize us. In Project Hail Mary, our alien invaders aren't even sentient. They're a species of alien microbe named Astrophage. It's the equivalent of space algae. So small you wouldn't think they'd be called the apocalypse itself. But that's truly what they are. Despite its lack of size and intelligence, Astrophage is an existential threat to life itself across our galaxy. And it's all thanks to one nasty little evolutionary trait they've got. Astrophage absorb sunlight to survive and sustain themselves throughout the universe. By receiving the energy that would typically go to other planets in the solar system, it's effectively stealing the sun from Earth's ecosystems and its wildlife, which unfortunately includes us. What that means is a gradually cooling, freezing Earth whose crops are doomed to fail, whose animal species will starve, and whose people will eventually starve. Those who survive long enough would face a colder version of a Mad Max wasteland in the form of a new ice age, although this one would be indefinitely prolonged. It would most likely be the end of mankind, if the resource wars didn't wipe us out first. All of this is bad enough, but another nightmare about Astrophage is its durability. Obviously, Astrophage has evolved to survive and steal energy from the sun, which makes it hard for us to reach and deal with them because it's the sun, it's kinda hot to us. However, the scary reality is that Astrophage has evolved to survive space itself. You can't overheat it, you can't freeze it. Astrophage consistently remains at 96.415 Celsius. You could technically stab it to death with a nanosyringe, although this would require microscopic precision, and by the time you kill one, there's already more than you can count. There is the fact that Astrophage can't travel more than 8 light years without a nearby star to infest, except there's no chance of us escaping and surviving without there being a massive extinction level event. Not to mention, with just how far it is spreading across light years of travel, would it even be worth running from? Who's to say this isn't a threat against the universe, against multiple planets and civilizations, which, as it turns out, is the case. That brings us to the main story of Project Hail Mary, where we follow Ryland Grace, a scientist turned schoolteacher who is abducted into the Petrova Task Force. It's an international body given the green light by every member nation of the United Nations to deal with the sun dimming situation. It's actually referred to as the Petrova Line situation, referring to an infrared trail created by Astrophage who breed in Venus's carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere and then go to the sun as a feeding ground, migrating between the two and forming the Petrova Line. Grace gets abducted to deal with it for 2 reasons. The first being that he spent his scientific career arguing that life doesn't require water or a certain temperature range for evolutionary survival. He'd be a good fit to research the astrophage samples the task force has, since seemingly they can survive the impossible. The second reason is that Grace is not a great scientist. That's not to say he's a bad scientist. At his worst, he's kinda controversial and ranted about other scientists by name in his big research paper that ended up getting mocked. But he does know his science. What's happening is, in their desperation, the Petrova Task Force is willing to have a decent enough scientist risk getting an alien plague versus some of the best minds on the planet. It's kinda like the trolley problem, and at the head of this problem, along with the Petrova Task Force, is Eva Strat. Simply put, Strat does a lot of things to save mankind that does require sacrifice. She's flat out given permission by the world leaders that be to do whatever she wants to solve the astrophage problem. That includes the likes of Russia and China. And no, of course this wouldn't happen in real life, but it does bring about some pretty crazy stuff, like how in order to prevent the effects of the sun dimming, Strat okays a nuclear bombardment of Antarctica to release methane gas that'll keep the atmosphere from getting cooler. This is probably the only book I've read where global warming is seen as a necessity. Likewise, the Sahara Desert is practically paved over with solar panels to create astrophage to be used as fuel. Although we'll get to why in a minute. Make no mistake, these actions do have environmental consequences. Strat is basically dooming certain species and causing all sorts of untold destruction, but she's doing it all to save the most amount of human life that she can. Because ultimately, there is hope. Nearly 12 light years from Earth exists a star called tau-ceti that's in the path of astrophage but isn't affected by it. Why that is, nobody knows. But Strat elects to create Project Hail Mary. The plan is to send a team of astronauts to the system, study the local astrophage, and send back any samples or discoveries made with the beetles, 4 tiny self-propelling rocket ships that are genuinely named after the beetles. There's even an acknowledgement of them right from the get-go. The good news is that astrophage proves to be an excellent fuel and energy source. It's basically said that if they weren't sun stealers, they'd be one of the greatest discoveries in the history of mankind. However, even with the amount they're making in the Sahara, there'd only be enough fuel for a one-way trip. There's simply not enough time to create enough fuel, and as a result, everybody boarding the ship knows that they're giving up their lives to save the Earth. Moreover, there's all sorts of testing that had to be done to ensure the astronauts were mentally sound, as well as having a very rare gene in which a person is resistant to long-term comas. Another part of the plan is to place the astronauts into a coma to avoid any tensions or psychological problems due to the trip, which would feel like nearly 4 years. There's no time for mess-ups here. Mankind is at stake. Unfortunately, disaster occurs when the lead science experts on the team, Dr. Martin Dubois and Annie Shapiro, are killed in a lab explosion. Dubois had requested astrophage for testing, but due to a clerical error, instead of receiving 1 nanogram as requested, he got 1 milligram. That's another small fact about astrophage. It's an exceptional energy source, but it's also wildly destructive. Even a couple of kilograms of it has the explosive potential to outdo the 50 megaton Tsar Bomba, the most powerful nuclear explosion ever seen on Earth. So when 1 milligram of astrophage was given instead of 1 nanogram, what happened is there wasn't just enough energy to melt metal, there was enough energy to vaporize 16 researchers, including 2 of the most important crew members on the ship. Stressed for time and recruits, Strat asks Grace to take the role of lead scientist, not only due to knowing the tasks and training needed, but because he also has that rare coma gene. He could board the Hail Mary and save mankind. Grace declines, so he's forced into the role against his will, given an amnesiac that doesn't remove his skills, only his memories temporarily. It's a messed up move made in secret, even kept from the other 2 crew members, Commander Yao Li-jai and Material Specialist Olesia Ilyukina. Yao would especially not appreciate it if he learned out. He only wanted someone who consented to the mission to be on board the ship. One last time, I'll bring up the trolley problem. Strat is utterly desperate to save the largest amount of humanity possible. Strat outright believes that society will soon begin to break down, devolving into resource wars and anarchy. Despite the impacts of the sun dimming being estimated to be decades, Strat doesn't think the Earth has that, and so Grace is sent against his will to tau-ceti. Tragically, Grace becomes the sole survivor of the ship. Despite having the coma gene, it wasn't enough for Yao or Alessia, who died. As a result, Grace, alone and amnesia-ridden, must save the planet. And then an actual alien shows up. I did mention that other civilizations were being impacted by astrophage, and here's proof. Rocky the Iridian of the planet Arid, who breathes ammonia and butchers the term fist bump.
Fist my bum. No, it's fist bump.
Hands down, Rocky is one of my favorite parts of the book, but his role is important in showing the devastation astrophage is causing. We're not the only ones facing annihilation here. Other intelligent species are as well. And if anything, it should say something that the intelligent life of the story isn't a destroyer, but a victim like us. Astrophage really is the apocalypse, even across the stars. Thankfully, Earth and Erid are saved. Despite some setbacks, Grace and Rocky discover the reason tau-ceti doesn't dim. This solar system contains the homeworld of Astrophage with a predator that eats it, called tau-amoeba. After some life or death shenanigans, the pair breed tau-amoeba to withstand the atmosphere of Venus and Rocky's equivalent to Venus, and are ultimately successful in saving life on their planets. Erid even welcomes Grace and makes him cloned meat burgers of himself, and our sun is confirmed to stop dimming. Life is saved, but there are some concerns I do have. Not only do we have a weapon on our hands that rivals nuclear bombs, there's the evolutionary potential of Astrophage to consider as well. We've talked a lot about how dangerous and durable its evolution has made it, but to put things into perspective here, Astrophage may be God. And that's not a joke. As a way to explain why Rocky and Iridians are socially and intelligently similar to humans, it gets pointed out how an earlier ancestor of Astrophage may have gone around seeding life on different planets, naturally leading to similar intelligent species. It's never confirmed and just a cool theory, but it's also an existentially scary one. There's a trope that comes up time to time in certain sci-fi stories that the progenitors of life are aliens, but there also are destroyers. I think it gets used because it's impactful stuff. The idea that our God hates us and wants to end us. In Project Hail Mary, life across the stars may have been unintentionally created by a literal blind idiot god that has evolved to now eat solar energy and freeze planets to death. Assuming this is true, Astrophage's evolutionary potential is the stuff of nightmares. Here's a scary thought. If Astrophage evolves enough, will it one day evolve to survive tau-amoeba? I want to remain optimistic, and of course, I have faith in the indomitable human spirit, along with my favorite rock spider people. Yet, it's still an unnerving thought, along with what will become of those other worlds that didn't evolve fast enough or don't have the technology to save themselves from Astrophage. Only Earth and Erid are saved. Will tau-amoeba eventually evolve to travel like Astrophage in search of its prey? Or will countless planets with primitive life die off, leaving a truly dead space behind? I guess we might not get to find out. But one thing is certain here. Astrophage is the apocalypse, and I won't be fisting its bump anytime soon. Thanks for watching, guys. A bit of a weird video than what I normally do or not normally do, but I did want to get into the habit of exploring more apocalypses or near apocalypses outside of Fallout. The AltFall in my name isn't just a Fallout reference, it's meant to mean alternate falls of humanity, AltFalls, something I'd like to get into more, and I figured why not start with the book I just read through for book club. It was pretty good. I also wanted to let you know I'm going to be posting this video to Spotify, where I do have an account I post my videos to. If you guys have a Spotify at all, it'd mean a lot if you followed me there and left a good review. But again, thank you guys for watching. Much more to come. In the meantime, I hope you stay safe out there.